Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all having a great and wonderful day. Well, we have some very untasteful news. I think it's going to show on what we have here in terms of the justice court system or as the Supreme Court, and it's like 5-4. There's 9 Supreme Court justices, and there's only a few that we can select from. Now, if we were to label all the actual Supreme Court justices here, and show them on who actually is in the ones, right? The ones that we have here. So if we have 6 Supreme Court justices, right? And then you have which are Republican, and then nominated for Democratic president, and you have 3 of the Democratic presidents, uh, and all that. You would think that maybe, just maybe, the we would probably win, right? But unfortunately for that, that's not the case. And what we have here is this from the Post Millennial saying Supreme Court rules 5-4 not allowed to block $2 billion in USAID payments. The Supreme Court ruled 5-4 on Wednesday against the Trump administration and sided with a lower court judge's order for the government to pay around $2 billion to U.S. Agency for International Development contractors. The High Court rejected the Department of Justice emergency application and sent it back down to the lower court for further proceedings. The one-page order stated that the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia issued a temporary restraining order on February 13th, blocking the Trump administration from enforcing directives that paused the distribution of foreign development aids. On February 25th, the District Court ordered the Trump administration to issue payments for part of the pause payments, which were for work already completed before the issuance of the temporary restraining order. This amounted to around $2 billion. A deadline was issued for the Trump administration to comply of 11:59 p.m. on February 26, hours before which the administration filed their request to intervene with the Supreme Court. The unsigned order stated the application is denied given that the deadline in the challenged order has now passed, and in light of the ongoing preliminary injunction proceedings, the district court should clarify what obligations the government must fulfill to ensure compliance with the temporary restraining order with due regard for the feasibility of any compliance timelines. The order heretofore entered by the Chief Justice is vacated. Dissenting justice. So, of course, we're going to be talking about this, right? A little bit here. And there are Justices Samuel Alito, Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, and Brett Kavanaugh in the dissent has wrote it, right? So we're going to go over it. I think the big problem that we have here is that we have 2 Republicans that are most likely against this. Because we already know here, right? Here, I guess. So we'll go here just to kind of give a better picture. So we already know that these 3 are the ones that voted no, right? That's the only explanation. So these 3 voted no. This is obvious. And then you have 2 others that are saying yes, right? For that matter, right? Or what have you. And the only people that we could probably clarify on who that is, because it's not Samuel Alito, it's not Clarence Thomas, it's not Brett Kavanaugh, and it's not Neil Gorsuch, right? It's not these 4. It's not these 4. And the only other ones that can make up to 5 is Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts. These are the only 2 that is it, because the Democrats are also not going to side with this. So we have these 2 to blame here. Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts. So what we have here is we have the actual thing here that says the dissenters are, which would be Justice Alito, with whom Justice Thomas, Justice Gorsuch, and Justice Kavanaugh joined, dissenting from denial of the application to vacate order. Does a single district court judge who likely lacks jurisdiction have the unchecked power to compel the government of the United States to pay out and probably lose forever $2 billion tax dollars? The answer to that question should be an emphatic no. But a majority of this court apparently thinks otherwise. I am stunned. I'm correct. It is correct. How does a lower court that has no ability or power to stop an executive branch, which the lower court is not part of the executive branch, how do they have the power to stop this exactly? So again, that's the real question here. It goes on to say, in capsule form, this is what happened. Respondents are a group of American businesses and nonprofits that receive foreign assistance funds from the State Department and the U.S. Agency for the International Development. They brought suit and claimed that the current administration's temporary pause of foreign assistance payment is unlawful somehow, even though they're a lower court and they don't have the ability or jurisdiction to actually just do it. On February 13, 2025, the district court issued a temporary restraining order requiring the government to halt its funding pause. It based that decision on a finding that respondents are likely to succeed in showing that the government violated the Administrative Procedure Act. After issuing the TRO, the district judge grew frustrated with the pace at which funds were being dispersed. And on February 25th, he issued a second order requiring the government to pay out approximately $2 billion. The judge brushed aside the government's agreement that sovereign immunity barred this enforcement order, and he took two steps that, unless corrected, would prevent any higher court from reviewing and possibly stopping the payments. First, he labeled the order as a non-applicable TRO, and second, he demanded the money be paid within 36 hours. This left the government a little time to try to obtain some review of what it regarded as lawless order. The government moved for a stay pending appeal in the district court, but the judge shrugged off the government's sovereign immunity argument and ignored the government's representation that most of the money in question, once dispersed, could probably not be recovered. So it's just going to go to no one. What's going on here? The government quickly filed an appeal to the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia, but with only 4 hours to spare before the payment deadline, the D.C. Circuit dismissed the government's appeal because it took the district court's TRO label at face value and determined it lacked appellate jurisdiction. With nowhere else to turn and the deadline fast approaching, the government asked this court to intervene. At the last moment, the Chief Justice issued an administrative stay. Unfortunately, a majority has now undone that stay. As a result, the government must apparently pay $2 billion post-haste, not because the law requires it, but simply because a district judge so ordered. As the nation's highest court, we have a duty to ensure that the power entrusted to federal judges by the Constitution is not abused. Today, the court fails to carry out that responsibility. Time does not allow a lengthy discussion of the legal issues presented by this case, but a brief summary suffices to show that the district court's order should be vacated or at the very least stayed. To start, it is clear that the district court's enforcement order should not be construed as an appealable preliminary injunction, not a mere TRO. A TRO, as its name suggests, is temporary, and its proper role is to restrain challenge conduct for a short time while the court considers whether a more lasting relief is warranted. So again, pretty much what Trump is saying is that, or not Trump, what Trump's saying is, what this is saying here is that Trump was pretty much just halting this, right? He was just blocking it and ready for review to review what was going through. The lower court is saying, oh, well, you can't go and do that because, well, reasons. But that's the problem here. The lower court has no authority or jurisdiction to be able to block a higher court or the executive branch. We have executive branches and courts for a reason. Lower court cannot influence the higher court and so forth, right? Well, the presidency is the executive branch. It's one of the highest branches out there outside of beside Congress, right? Hence why President Trump and etc. have to go and contact the Congress because they are a higher court. Because there are reasons and levels for these things. So a lower court is demanding things that they do not have the power or the ability to do so. That's the insane part here. We have to make it make sense. So it goes on to say that this is the way to what have you, right? So that's the insanity here. I don't know what else to say about this, right? Other than the fact that we have two people, John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett, just actively declining. Because, again, what we have here is from Marina Medvin is saying that I have never seen a dissent like this. Justice Alito says he is stunned, etc., to force a $2 billion non-fundable payment at a complete loss to taxpayers. So it's 4-5, right? 5-4. My apologies. And the only other way that we have this, that we can have this possibility, is that we already know that these three are already doing this. We already know these three are doing it. And Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts are the only ones that would be doing this. Honestly, I don't think Stephen Breyer is even in anymore. I may believe it's Khadija Brown or something along those lines that is actually in the Supreme Court right now. So that being said, Stephen Breyer is not one of them. I don't think. I'm pretty sure it's like Khadijah Brown. And then so those three, obviously, these three are the ones that are going to decline it, right? And Amy Coney Barrett says no, and John Roberts says no. They're on the other side. So they're saying that you have to pay these payments onto people that just don't exist. That's the insane part here. And I think that we have to reevaluate on who is on the Supreme Court, specifically Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts. Unfortunately, we have to have Democratic people for the Supreme Court. But again, this is the insanity here. These two are a problem. They are a problem, and they need to go at this point, because I don't think that we can have these people say that a lower court has higher authority than one of the highest courts in the country outside of the Congress. So that's insane here. I don't know what's going on, but that's what we have here. All right, guys, that's it for the video. Let's guys share. As always, take care, my friends.
Burn down the city, scream at the top of your lungs till you're dizzy. You can cancel everything and everybody in it.